We are at that point, the crossroads, where Montreal Canadiens GM Kent Hughes is now greeted with a dilemma that we didn't really expect to see at this point of the year. I think for Montreal Canadiens fans who had paid attention to this team throughout the course of 2024-2025, there was a certain idea, a path that the Canadiens would go down when it came to their goaltending heading into the offseason. And a lot of folks, myself included, were saying things in the same sort of way that guys are going to come in and guys are going to exit. The same guys we were all talking about were going to leave and they're going to end their time with the Habs because they're not all too great. And we even made a video talking about how the end could be near for this one particular goaltender. But now, things are looking a lot more muddy. Because I wanted to turn your attention to an article on TVA Sports earlier this week, where Nick Cloutier goes out there and asks, what will happen to Cayden Primeau? You see, for most of the year, everybody was down on Cayden Primeau, and for good reason. The guy was not good in the National Hockey League. He was not an NHL caliber backup. He had the worst save percentage in the NHL for all goalies, period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Any circumstance, whatever. Cayden Primeau was last in the NHL with an .836 save percentage and a stellar 4.7 goals against average. Literally the worst goalie in the league. And so a lot of Canadiens fans were watching this guy and they were saying, okay, I mean, his contract is expiring at the end of the year. Jakub Dobeš is in Laval doing his thing. Jacob Fowler is a young prospect looking to be good and ready to go, so the Habs don't necessarily need to keep Cayden Primeau, a guy whom they drafted in 2017 as a 7th-round pick and then inevitably made the NHL, which is fantastic, because how many 7th-round picks end up making the league in general? It's very little. So, Primeau went into the territory of writing offness for Canadiens fans throughout the course of 24-25. But then, something interesting happened. He started to do very well in the AHL. And that success has continued into the Laval Rockets playoff run, where Primeau, in the 5-game sample he has had, is at a .924 save percentage. He's got a .203 goals against, he's got 1 shutout, he's splitting the load with Jacob Fowler, and they're both looking really, really good. It's kind of interesting to see how the Cayden Primeau show has gone down for the Montreal Canadiens, especially when you consider that Jacob Fowler's save percentage is at a .903. Primeau has been better, statistically speaking. And now, we're talking about Cayden Primeau's future in Montreal as not so much of a guarantee as fans thought it was months ago. What does the future hold for Cayden Primeau? The TVA Sports article writes, while the American goaltender's stellar performance with the Rocket made Pascal Vincent smile, his departure from the Canadiens organization still seems like a formality. After a disastrous start to the season with the Habs, Primeau returned to Laval and was the best goaltender in the American Hockey League. He has now carried the Rocket to the 3rd round of the playoffs. Is that not so interesting? Like, Primeau is the worst statistical goalie in terms of save percentage and goals against in the NHL, but then you head over to the American Hockey League, and it's like, okay, yeah, he's number 1 there. I mean, he actually wasn't number 1. He was number 3, behind Matt Murray. And Matt Murray. So, yeah, that's kind of funny. Matt Murray and the Marlies and Matt Murray with the Admirals both doing fantastic work and putting up the top 2 save percentages in the American Hockey League. Yeah, by the way, if you hadn't realized, those are not the same guy. Those are 2 individual human beings who happen to share the same name. They're not even in the same family. They both happen to be pro goalies. They both happen to be AHL caliber pro goalies, and they both happen to be good. So, yeah. That is ridiculous, but Cayden Primeau was third on that list. If you go by goals against, he was second overall in the league. So going back to the main point, kind of funny how he was the worst guy in the NHL but one of the best in the AHL. The article then writes over here that the Canadiens' decision makers have shown in the past they do value Primeau. So much so that they spent most of 23-24 with 3 goaltenders for fear of losing him on waivers. And while Primeau has had several chances to put his roots down in Montreal since turning pro in 2019, he wouldn't be the first goalie to make his move later than expected, in his mid-20s, after several years of development in both the NHL and the AHL. Take Logan Thompson of the Capitals. He wasn't an NHL regular goalie until he was 25, and he had to go through the ECHL before getting there. This article then goes out there and says, in Primeau's case, the rise of Dobeš to play backup in Montreal and the fact that Fowler is seen as the goaltender of the future changes the situation. If Primeau's contract is extended, will they be able to give Fowler enough starts in Laval next year? Probably not. The other factor that comes into play is Primeau's contractual status. He'll be an RFA on July 1st, and the Canadiens can retain his rights by submitting a qualifying offer of $1.07 million, according to Puckpedia. Primeau also has arbitration rights. This is something to think about when every dollar counts for the Canadiens, who still have to deal with Carey Price's contract, in addition to having to renew the contracts of Heineman, Struble, and Dobeš. Kluche writes that a qualifying offer would allow the Canadiens to retain Primeau's rights with the goal of trading him, but would a team want to acquire an unproven NHL goalie with $1 million as a cap hit as a starting point in negotiations? In all of this, Primeau's own wishes must be considered, knowing his intention to make his mark elsewhere and knowing that he'll be stuck behind Dobeš and Fowler in the Habs organization. Kent Hughes could let him fly on his own and not submit a qualifying offer. If so, he'd become a UFA, and he would be free to sign with any team on July 1st. That is probably what will happen. Now, the thing is, I know this article is very direct in saying that they think Primeau's just going to become a UFA, but I wanted to propose the idea that says that it might not be that simple if you're Kent Hughes trying to evaluate this team. Yes, you can do good by the player. Yes, you can say, hey, you want to have this opportunity elsewhere, you think that you could find a better NHL home in another team, that's great. But if you're coming at it from the perspective of making your team as good as it could be, if you think about Cayden Primeau as a guy who was so good in the AHL that he's literally like one of the best guys there, would it not be reasonable to try to think about this guy as a potential NHL guy as well? Even though he sucked last year in the NHL. I don't want to make it seem like I'm defending the guy here, but I doubt that if Cayden Primeau plays more games at the NHL level, he ends up finishing last overall in the league in save percentage. That just seems too outright crazy for it to happen again. I would assume he's probably better than that. I'm thinking, could the Canadiens go with another triple goalie tandem? Tandem? No. Triplets, I guess you could call it instead. Would they go with another triple goalie rotation? Or do they want to kind of hammer things down and go with the more traditional route? Montembeault's the starter, Dobeš is the backup, Fowler's the AHL guy, and that's it. Primeau, no room for you. Sorry, buddy. Nothing. Zilch. Nada. Head over to another NHL team and try to crack their roster. I do think it is a dilemma worth exploring, especially since I think he's been so good that the benefit of the doubt is reasonable to now exist in this situation. So, if you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this Kent Hughes dilemma? Cayden Primeau, everybody, is going to make things a little bit interesting for Hughes and the Canadiens. Is it really as simple as just saying, okay, yeah, you're fine, but we know that you want to get a better opportunity, so you can head over to whichever other team is willing to give you any money? Is it that simple? Or could the Canadiens really try to evaluate whether or not Primeau is an asset that they can use and get value out of in next season's worth of play, either in the NHL or the AHL? Let me know in the comment section all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.